Bobby asks, what's your protocol if you're feeling a production edit during the mix that you want to make or suggest? Just go for it, offer an alternate bounce. We've talked about this before, which is sorry. It's not always no. I mean, you've done things like dropped a bass an octave and things like that. But the reason I thought about this is that's basically, to me, that's a version of, it's a more extreme version of, hey, you have this guitar that you think needs to be prominent, but instead I'm going to low pass it down to 2K, and then all of a sudden your vocal opens up. And I think that there is no straightforward answer to a question like this. How much do you as a mixer overstep into production, or as a producer overstep into writing? I think that there's sort of a few main things.
I hear that differently, though. I hear that differently than the examples you're giving, because those are great examples, but those are sonic examples, not like, I don't think you need a second pre-chorus.
So this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going with this, which is, one, it's all about the relationship you have. Mm-hmm. Two, if you're going to do things that are beyond the credit that you're doing, don't just do that as the main version. And then I would say, unless it's really extreme and everybody loves it, don't go trying to weasel your way into revenue streams and money and points. If you're, as a mixer, you say, I'm going to do the thing exactly as you're expecting it. Here's an alternate version where I muted this or did a slight recut. But even if they say yes to it, don't be the guy that goes, you got to give me a co-producer credit. Like, don't do that shit.
Get out.
That's some whack shit. What you do is you make, if they love your production edit and you get that sort of thing, then the next time you work together, if they want to bring you in as more of give you a producer point or something, that's another conversation down the line. But don't go in being like trying to get extra credit and things like that. So the question I had for you was, I heard that the Jason Mraz song "I'm Yours," which was mixed by your friend Tony Maserati, the version that he got to mix had a lot of drums. Had drums
all the way through the song,
all the way through, and he made the decision because of his relationship with Jason, saying, "Hey, I think this should just be guitar vocal much longer than it is." And that, I mean, that is a significant, that's like an old school producer move. That's a Rick Rubin move. You know, Rick Rubin used to get the credit on records as reducer because he would just take stuff out. I know Tony did not come in and be like, also, by the way, now I'm a producer. He's just making the best move. Do you know about that story beyond what I just said? Was it?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Because that's a perfect example of what we're talking about, which is that's a sort of production edit, but really it's just Tony is doing his job as a guy who's mixed thousands of thousands of records, many hits, has an instinct for these things. Give me a thought on that, or do you know more about that?
No, I used to know the exact story. Sitting in my head right now, I can't remember anything about it. So I don't want to say too much falsity. But yeah, he made that move, and Jason respected it. Thought it was a great move, and you know, Tony's invested in the artistry, right? He's invested in the copyright. He's invested in everything that he touches. That's just who he is, right? Like I don't. I've watched him try that on things that people with a higher level of egocentricity said that no, even though it was clearly better. Like I've watched him do it enough to know that, yeah, sometimes it's going to win, sometimes it's not. I think I've thought about doing that sometimes as well, and I haven't done it. And then if the artist is in the room, I'll bring it up. It's difficult to do that. I don't know. I'm imagining Jason was in the room and that decision was made, right? I'm sure he was. And if he wasn't, maybe it was an alt version, you know, but that's because they already had an album together. I would do the same thing with someone if I had an album with them and I really, really felt strong. You know, I heard he fought hard on it too, because he was just that confident. He didn't fight hard on other times he did it. Maybe he wasn't as confident, or the person was just too strong backboned and, you know, not, Spider, it's a flexible boundary. Like when you have that relationship with a producer or an artist, like those boundaries become a bit more flexible, and the creative process can flourish that way. Same thing as the mid-range conversation of when you start opening things up by doing bold moves like that, you start shaping the record differently from the rough, and it's going to be heard differently. And if you do it properly and you rebuild and reorient the arrangement into where, you know, it hits emotionally, hopefully better then it's going to speak for itself, and the move's going to speak for itself. And the wrong type of ears are not going to respond to it well, and they're going to want exactly what they have. And then you're not the best fit for that type of move, and that's fine too.
I think that's a really important point, and I always want to make the like meta psychological point, which is if you are continually communicating, whether it's literally verbally or just through experience of making records with an artist, if you're continually communicating that your goal is to help them make the best thing, and that's all you care about, and whatever, and you want you got to make sure they love it, and you're not here to tell them how to make their record. You know, different personalities have different levels of need of care and comfort of like, hey, I know I'm making a bunch of crazy moves, but in the end, if you don't love all of them, it's your record, so you can tell me to fuck off. Like, I've said that so many times to artists, and that's a really important thing to communicate. So I can make bolder moves because they feel comfortable going,
yes,
I consider this because I know you have my best interest at heart, and also I don't like this or whatever. Like, they can say, they don't feel uncomfortable because some random mix engineer is telling them to cut their choruses in half. Like, you don't want to get into that situation.
Definitely not. The more you try and are open to opportunity, to possibilities in a mix process with a collaborator, and you pick and choose your battles, when you make a move and you wind up fighting for it because you've also just kind of given in to someone else thinking that their idea was better so many times, or their idea was better and yours wasn't, and you just have this open dialogue, the minute you actually decide to put your foot down and be like, no, trust me, then there's trust built because of the openness. And that's when those best decisions, get made, is when there's just simply trust built. And that comes with being experimental, open, no ego involved. The minute you pull the trigger to fight for an idea, someone's going to go, oh, wow, this one means a lot to you. Maybe I should be a little bit more open-minded to this.
As you say, the very last thing about that, you're absolutely right. The very last thing about this is, and there's no way to implement this, it just sort of is what it is, the number one trust builder is having success together. And if people who are young engineers or young producers or young writers or whatever get frustrated, like, why does the same person keep getting hired? Because that's really how you build trust. We did this together, it worked, and it made everybody money. Let's keep doing this thing. Like, it's a really fundamental thing that you sort of, it's hard to beat that. And that's why long-term relationships with artists and collaborators is so important.
Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, all of this content is free. There's no secret knowledge here. There's no Patreon. We don't read ads. We don't have sponsors. We're just trying to build a knowledge base. All that we ask in return is that you share it with somebody. Thanks so much.